4, 3, 2, 1.
Whether you've been married 1 or 20 plus years, at some point you realize you married into crazy. And that's what our show is all about. If your marriage or relationship is compassionate, real, accountable, zealous and yielding, or just plain crazy, Snooks and Lovey offer love, laughter, and a dose of reality as they unpack this thing called marriage. Sit back, relax, and get your ear hustle on. It's time to start the conversation.
This is your official invitation to the 2026 Married into Crazy Winter Ball and Marriage Conference.
February 6th and 7th, 2026 is a 2-day event. It's going to be a lot of fun. The theme for Friday night is denim, diamonds, and dancing. We have a great lineup for you, DJ Anointed, and also one of the original Chicago Steppers, Creed, is going to be there to teach the soul line dancing. It's
going to be a lot of fun, everybody. So we're going to feed you, we're going to dance, and set the night off leading into Saturday, which is going to be a great day of speakers. Mm-hmm. We have 10 times Grammy Award winning artist Joel Kibble as a special guest, and we've got some amazing speakers lined up along with him. Not only are we speaking, but we've got, I'm not even going to tell you. Go to the website, check it out. Go to marriedintocrazy.com, and you'll be able to click on Winter Ball and see all of the activities that are going to be taking place.
You don't want to miss this, guys. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Get your tickets now. Early bird pricing goes all the way up through the middle of November. After that, all bets are off. You never know what we're going to do, but right now is your chance to get the early bird tickets. We want you to get the discount, but more than anything else, we want you there.
Be there.
Welcome back to another episode of the Married into Crazy podcast with Snooks and Lovey. I'm Lovey, and because this is another segment of the King's Corner, Snooks is not going to be here with me. Now, I'm going to apologize up front because I'm going to divert my eyes from the camera many times throughout this conversation, simply because I want to get this right. I took a lot of notes. Today, we're going to be talking about something that is extremely important, and it stems from a conversation I had recently with a friend. A friend of mine, Amos, and I were having a conversation about just life in general. And the topic of leadership versus influence came up. And it really made me think and really made me delve. For the last 2-3 days, it's all I've been thinking about is the difference between leadership and influence as it relates to a man, as it relates to being a husband or even a father for that matter. And exactly what's the difference? So when you see my eyes divert away and I'm reading, yes, I'm looking at my tablet because I took a lot of notes, did some research, and I want to make sure I get this right because it's that important. But before I jump into it, make sure you go over to the marriedintocrazy.com and take a look at all the different ways that we're pouring into relationships, that we're pouring into marriages. More specifically, if you're in the area or if you're looking forward to flying out and attending a conference, take a look at the Married into Crazy Winter Ball and Marriage Conference that's coming up on February 6th and 7th. This particular episode should be going out on a Wednesday, and on November 21st, the early bird pricing ends. So if you're checking this out before November 21st at midnight, make sure you go and get your early bird tickets. Discounted pricing. But after that, price is going to go back up to the regular price, but they'll still be available. And there's a lot of different options for you. But go ahead, check out the podcast. Check out the website. But be sure to go ahead and hit like and subscribe if what I'm talking about today actually resonates with you and you know a man in your life, a brother, an uncle, a son, your husband, whoever it may be, have them take a look at this. But let's just jump into it right now. Look, every man, I don't care who you are, where you're from, you cast a shadow. And that shadow is something that everybody stands in to a certain extent. It's a shadow that your spouse is going to stand in. It's a shadow that's going to be cast over your children for decades to come. Your children will actually stand in that shadow. But is it one of leadership or is it one of influence? So let's talk about that. So a shadow in itself is something that you may or may not notice. In life, your shadow is going to be your habits. It's going to be the way that you deal with the people around you, the way that you talk to individuals. It's going to be the way that you forgive, the way you love, and the way you handle conflict, right? So that's the shadow we're talking about. And it's going to be extremely important because even as a grown man, I recognize that to a certain extent, I still stand in the shadow that my father laid out before me. And I want you to give it some thought, men, husbands, fathers. Think about where you are in life right now, and think about the impact that the most prominent men in your life have actually had on where you are and who you are right now. What kind of shadow did they cast? Was it one of leadership, the authoritarian, this is what I told you to do, so therefore you do it, and you've carried some of that forward? Or did they do things that influenced you? And that influence kind of carries on today as well. There is a distinct difference. See, our children live and move inside the shadow that we cast. I've said that. But what I want you to know is that it's not just our children. It's our grandchildren. The shadow we cast can go many, many years beyond where we are in life. So let's talk about the shadow of leadership and what that actually means. So it's often understood as being the decision maker, the person that's the shot caller, right? The man of the house, those types of things. But there's strengths that come along with that. And there's nothing wrong with being a leader. We all aspire to be leaders, but we want to be a leader that influences as opposed to somebody that just simply leads. There's a lot of men out there that have come before us, and I'll even admit there are very many periods of my life where I've led, but I didn't influence correctly. You know, the whole generation that we grew up with, do as I say, not as I do. Or, why do I have to do this, Dad? Or why should I do this? Because I said so. I gave you direct order. I came from the military as well. We were told to do things just because. I'm sure there was a motive behind it. It was always mission driven, but there was never a why, right? So leadership gives structure. It gives sometimes safety and clarity. It shows responsibility and occasionally initiative. If something's going on, if it's a chaotic situation and you lead through it, that helps, right? To be a leader. That's what we always talk about. Be a leader. We talk about that in sports. I got that in football. I got that in rugby. I got that in basketball and track. It's always about stepping forward and being the person to guide everyone else. But there's a trap. The trap, more times than not, is that leadership can be more about control, more so than being, that individual that is doing the right thing. And sometimes being in control gets you in trouble. I know that me as a husband, at times, I've gotten in trouble simply because I wanted to be in control. And I am a control freak. I recognize that about myself. It does lend itself to some leadership traits, but children may obey the position that you hold, but not necessarily the person. Think about why we wanted to rebel in our teenage years, why we wanted to grow. And, I'm never going to be like him. I'm never going to do what she told me, like that. I'm never going to be like that with my kids or whatever. There's a rebelliousness, a rebellion that's going on. And a lot of that had nothing to do with, you don't generally rebel from influence. You rebel from an authoritarian. You rebel from somebody that's leading you down a path that you don't want to go. And you can argue that it can be still strong leadership. But how many times are we seeing that there's leadership in place that's taking people down a path that isn't necessarily the best path? We want that positive influence. Now, let's pivot real quick and take a look at shadow of influence. It's what people truly experience, right? It's the real, the intangible things. You know that it's the right thing to do. Influence is who you are when nobody is watching. It's what your kids, your family, your spouse absorb from your character. It's the emotional climate that you create. It can be either peaceful or it can be tense. It can be hopeful or cynical. That's the kind of influence that you can that you can exert, even in places that you're not even in physically. Influence is less about do what I say because I told you to do so, and more about this is what I see my dad, or this is what I see my husband doing, or this is what I've seen him do in boardrooms. People see that and emulate it more times than not. The key idea is that leadership is the role, but influence is the impact. You want people to understand and know. And when I say people, I'm talking about everywhere that you go. When you walk into a room, you want to be able to make sure that the time you spend there has impact. And not, shh, 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 okay, the president's in the room, or shh, 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 that's the VP, or that's the, the manager, or here comes dad. Okay, shh, shh, here comes dad. No, you want people to know that when you walk into a room that there's sustenance, that there's something for you to convey, whether that's your spouse and you're coming home from work, or it's your children, and you enter the room after a long trip or what have you. It's that impact that you want to be extremely lasting. And again, not just there in the moment, but that's going to last for years and generations. That's going to guide your legacy as well. Just because I hold a leadership role in my family as dad, the uncle, the things that we really truly aspire, we love those titles, right? And a title is always tied to some form of leadership. Title doesn't necessarily always go with the impact that you'll have on somebody. So again, just because I hold a leadership role in my family doesn't mean I'm casting a healthy influence. My title does not guarantee my legacy, nor does it you. Right? So think about, here's what it looks like on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so I'm going to look away from time to time because I really want to get this right. A father who always makes the final decision but never explains why. Is that leadership or is that influence? Someone that says, because I said so, rather than teaching, listening. Is that leadership or is that influence? Someone that demands respect, and that's a big one in today's world because there's a lot of people running around demanding respect. Oh, someone-so disrespected me. Oh, I didn't like the way they looked at me. That was absolute disrespect. But if you're so caught up and demand respect, but you don't model humility or earn that respect, are you a person of influence or a person that's just demanding leadership, that demands to be at the forefront? How does that show up? How does that show up to your kids? How does it show up to your spouse? How does it show up to your coworkers? To the people you lead at work? It can show up, and make them feel as if they're in a position where they're afraid to fail, that they're not really heard or listened to. When it comes to your spouse, they're unsure of whether or not they're being loved or they're just being managed. If you're influencing them, and I'm not saying influence from the respect of like sales, like you're trying to influence somebody's decision, trying to get them to do something for you. I'm talking about the way in which you carry yourself, the character with which you that seeping out of your pores makes them want to be around you, that wants to emulate you. You have to think about that, right? So the shadow of influence, let me give you some examples. It's not being afraid to apologize. It's not weakness. That's showing that I'm wrong. And it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to fail occasionally and recognize that and take responsibility for it. A person of influence, the way it looks is that someone that says, I don't know, but let's figure this out together. I know that I've had influential managers and people that I've worked with in the past that I still respect them, even though I may not work for them any longer. I may have moved on, gravitated in my position, what have you. But I'll tell you this, the ones that said, you know what, I don't know the answer to that, let me get back to you, are the ones that I respected the most. Someone that shows consistency. This is the big one. Come on, think about it. Integrity. What you said on Sunday is the same as Wednesday. It's not flip-flopping back and forth. There's something to a person, a man, that there was a phrase back in the day that said, word is bond. That means that what you say actually has sustenance, actually means something. There's influence that flows from an individual that maintains it and takes responsibility for what they say. Influence is about being present. Not just saying I'm going to be there or I meant to or you had good intentions. It's about actually showing up and being in the moment. Someone that puts their phone down, turns the TV off, not just turns the volume down so they can actually